Bob Odenkirk advises us to be on the lookout for a new Mr. Show. Mel Brooks might be in search for more money in Spaceballs 2. And we've got the lowdown on when the Parks and Rec cast will make their final appearance. Hint, it's NBC. Fellas, be sure to check for lumps in the shower. This is C Plus News Time.
It's C Plus News Time with your host, Chad White.
I love the point. That was a really classy move, that point right there. I'm pointing to the microphone, not my penis. I promise. Welcome back to C Plus News Time here on C Plus Comedy. I'm your host, Chad White, and this is your comedy news for the week of February 2nd, 2015. A lot of shit happened this week, so why don't we just dive right in? Was it Trey Songz that had that song, I'm about to dive in? Man, Trey Songz, that guy's a poet, a real poet. First up, Bob Odenkirk says the Mr. Show reunion might be a new comedy sketch series. Bob Odenkirk did an interview with AV Club this week promoting the new show, Better Call Saul. I heard that show is better than expected. Call Saul. Anyway, near the end of the interview, Bob Odenkirk gave the world a vague Mr. Show update. He said, and I'm quoting right now, "However, we are working on new sketches and a new show together, and we want to do multiple episodes of it. And yet we're limited." Look at that. That's amazing. That's Bob Odenkirk promising us something Mr. Show related this year. And it better not be that picture that Paul F. Tompkins tweeted out a little bit earlier this year. Or last year, actually. A little bit into last year. It was actually before New Year's. Doesn't matter. It still happened. Odenkirk then went on throughout the entire quote, which is like sentences long. I just don't want to read it. Naming everybody that was a part of Mr. Show, including David Cross, and even the likes of Scott Aukerman and Paul F. Tompkins, and even Bill Odenkirk and Brian Fosine. Odenkirk said that all of them have had 2 writing sessions so far, so that's not substantiated enough to get them a full sketch series going. He said, "We're trying to nail it down quick. We're talking to people now, and everybody knows how fast we have to move on this. So hopefully by February or March, which is February now, then we should know something. Maybe the end of February. Happy Black History Month. Am I right, Bob Odenkirk?" Next up, Mel Brooks said he would do Spaceballs 2 and search for more money if Rick Moranis would do it. Mel Brooks is on Adam Carolla's podcast this week called Take a Knee, and he was talking about Spaceballs 2. The podcast is behind a paywall at the moment, but it is definitely said that Mel Brooks had said all this stuff. He said, and I quote, "Maybe I could do another musical. Maybe I could do another movie. I was thinking about Spaceballs the other day. In Spaceballs, in the movie, Bill Pullman says to me, 'Yogurt, just plain yogurt,' he says. 'Do you think we'll ever meet again?' And I say, 'Well, I don't know, maybe in Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money.' And I'm thinking now, if I did a movie that came out right after Star Wars came out, maybe a couple of months later, I'd have a big weekend, you know?" And then he goes on to talk about how Spaceballs 2 would work out. But he also mentioned in an interview with Parade Magazine last year that he'd love to do Spaceballs 2 if Moranis was on board. But it's unlikely because Moranis retired due to his wife dying of a sickness after the movies came out, and he just retired from, being an actor, and he just wanted to be with his kids. It's also unlikely that Spaceballs 2 would happen because Joan Rivers is now dead, and John Candy died a long time ago. And finally, the Parks and Recreation cast will appear on late night after the series finale. I reported to you earlier this year that NBC is shotgunning the rest of Parks and Recreation down your throat, even though this past week, they only had 1 episode, which is really sad. But it was a really good episode, Donna and Joe. Donna got married to Keegan-Michael Key. It was a whole thing, very good, and it focused on Donna, which is great. Anyway, with the finale being less than a month away, the Parks and Recreation cast has already filmed it, and they're probably not going to be with each other ever again. Not until now. NBC announced this past Friday that the entire cast of Parks and Recreation will be on Late Night with Seth Meyers. That cast includes Amy Poehler, Aziz Ansari, Nick Offerman, Aubrey Plaza, Chris Pratt, Adam Scott, Jim O'Hare, Retta, and executive producer and very funny guy, Mike Schur. Amy Poehler was Seth's first late night guest way back when the show started a year ago, apparently. It's been that long. It's been a year. Wow. So this really makes it the best way for the series to end. And I will miss this show. Especially Nick Offerman, because that guy's just a beast. There you have it. There's your C Plus News Time. I'm done talking right now, and hopefully you have been not talking the entire time. Because how else would you hear me, you dummy?